methods sent of my mail?
Sorry, I guess like someone from the team can actually reply.
Sir, please tell me, sir, what's the problem?
No, today's the last of this training. I
Yes,
request to
sir.
you all matters you should send of my mail.
All the PPTs you're asking.
All training matters you should send of my mail.
Okay, sir, you can send your mail to the in the WhatsApp group. So we will send you the content, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Rajapriya ma'am,
Yes, sir.
kindly
Okay, sir.
Suresh sir, shall we
Yeah,
start?
yeah,
Suresh sir, shall we start?
yes, sir, you can start, sir.
Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
first of all, like I would like to thank Francis Xavier
Sir,
College.
actually, sir,
Sir,
excuse
Yeah,
me. There,
yeah.
there is a welcome address. Then you can start.
Okay, fine. Yeah,
Okay,
sure. Fine.
okay, okay. Yeah.
okay. Participants, kindly mute your audio. Please do not turn on your video also during the session. So, okay. I welcome you all to the final session of the 6 days short-term training program on remote sensing, GIS, and global navigation satellite system. I welcome the guest speaker, Dr. Suresh Devraj, who is currently being a geomatic analyst at K-Cube Consultancy Services Private Limited, Bangalore. He has completed his doctorate in microwave remote sensing from Vellore Institute of Technology, MTech in remote sensing from Anna University Regional Campus Tirunelveli, BE in civil engineering from Vailtech Chennai. He is an expertise with GIS data processing, analyzing, troubleshooting, and resolving data related issues using various GIS open source applications. He has published around 6 journals and 7 communicated manuscripts with high impact factors. He has attended many conferences and workshops related to remote sensing and GIS. He has been a resource person for many training programs on remote sensing and GIS applications in civil engineering. His software skills include remote sensing and GIS, QGIS, GMT, SAR, SNAP, ArcGIS, ERDAS and ENVI, AutoCAD, Revit Architecture, 3ds Max, and PostgreSQL. We welcome you, sir, to our program.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the intro. And good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Suresh, and I'm a geomatics analyst from KQ Consulting Services Private Limited. So today I'll be actually handling a concept called georeferencing in QGIS, and this session will be a complete hands-on exercise. So I request everyone to actually go back to your WhatsApp group where I have actually shared a link which contains the data for this particular session. So if you are not downloaded it, please download it. The size will be like around 3 MB. So I guess like it will be very easy for you guys to download. So maybe like the lecture will be like for another 15 or 20 minutes. So you can actually download it within that particular time. So before going to like georeferencing, I would actually like to give a small speech on what is maps and what is the importance of maps. And there is a concept called projection which yesterday in which Maheshwari might have discussed in yesterday's class. but still I want to add a few more stuff to it. So I would like to actually show you a video. So please make sure like your mics are on. So just I want everyone to have a small view at this 4 minutes video, because this video is actually having so much content in it, and what is wrong with the map that we are actually following day-to-day life. That is like we are into this maps maybe from our third standard, or like from our school days itself we are using maps. So what is wrong with the maps, and what are the information that are actually provided? So all the information will be actually shared in this 4 minutes video. So I would like to actually show you this particular video, maybe like another 4 minutes. Okay, just listen to the video alone. Whether the audio is visible, say audible.
Hi, I'm sorry. Oh, sorry to be late.
No problem.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It is audible.
I'm Dr. John Fallow, Dr. Cynthia Sales, and Donald Duke.
Okay, and you are the Organization of Cartographers for Social Equality.
Well, we're from the OCSE. We have many members,
How many?
4,300 dues-paying members.
What are the dues?
And $20 a year for the newsletter.
Let's start.
Wait, I want to see this.
This is Josh Lyman.
Indeed you are.
Josh, this is Dr. Fallow, and
Hi.
Ms. Merriman.
Yes.
Should we begin?
Yes. Plain and simple, we'd like President Bartlett to aggressively support legislation that would make it mandatory for every public school in America to teach geography using the Peters projection map instead of the traditional Mercator.
Give me $200 and it's done.
Really?
No. Why are we changing maps?
Because, Sujay, the Mercator projection has fostered European imperialist attitudes for centuries and created an ethnic bias against the Third World.
Really?
The German cartographer, Mercator, originally designed this map in 1569 as a navigational tool for European sailors.
The map enlarges areas at the poles to create straight lines of constant bearing or geographic direction.
So it makes it easier to cross an ocean.
But it distorts the relative size of nations and continents.
Are you saying the map is wrong?
Oh dear, yes. Now look at Greenland.
Okay,
Now look at Africa.
okay.
The two land masses appear to be roughly the same size.
Yes.
It would blow your mind if I told you that Africa is in reality 14 times larger.
Yes?
Here we have Europe drawn considerably larger than South America. When it's 6.9 million square miles, South America is almost double the size of Europe's 3.8 million.
Alaska appears 3 times as large as Mexico, when Mexico is larger by 0.1 million square miles.
Germany appears in the middle of the map when it's in the northernmost quarter of the Earth.
Wait. Relative size is one thing, but you're telling me that Germany isn't where we think it is?
Nothing's where you think it is.
Where is it?
I'm glad you asked. The Peters projection.
It has fidelity of axis.
Fidelity of position.
East-west lines are parallel and intersect north-south axes at right angles.
What the hell is that?
It's where you've been living this whole time. Should we continue?
Uh-huh.
So, you're probably wondering what all of this has to do with social equality.
No, I'm wondering where France really is.
Guys, we want to thank you very much for coming in.
Hang on, we're gonna finish this.
Okay.
What do maps have to do with social equality, you ask?
She asked.
Salvatore Natoli of the National Council for Social Studies argues, in our society, we unconsciously equate size with importance and even power.
I'm going to check in on Tubman.
Go.
These guys find Brigadoon on that map. You'll call me.
Probably not.
When third world countries are misrepresented, they're likely to be valued less. When Mercator maps exaggerate the importance of Western civilization, when the top of the map is given to the Northern Hemisphere, and the bottom is given to the Southern, then people will tend to adopt top and bottom attitudes.
Wait, where else could you put the northern hemisphere but on the top?
On the bottom.
Like this.
Yeah, but you can't do that.
Why not?
This is freaking me out.
Yeah. So I hope everyone actually gone through the video. So I hope everyone is able to actually listen the video also. Can someone actually like, I don't know, okay, maybe like in the future, I'll actually like get a questionnaire session. So this is the exact way what is actually represented in our surface. What do we see as a map? That is actually wrong. The reason is because whatever the things that we are looking at is a pseudo the maps. So for example, like this is the map that we might have actually seen in our day-to-day life, maybe from our geography sessions, maybe from our third standard or something, we are actually working with maps. So this is the map that we would have actually come across till today. But the thing is like, this is a map which is actually projected in pseudo Mercator projection, which means a false. Pseudo means false. So it is a false projection where only the shape is actually maintained. They don't care about the area. They only want at the shape. And why Europe is always on top and at the center? There is a big like discussion on this, which I don't want to discuss in detail because that is completely like Europeans were the one who ruled the entire world. So that is the reason they wanted to be at the center and they wanted to be at the top. So that creates some sort of a mentality to the people that they are superior to everyone. So that is why European designed a map in such a way that they are at the center and they are the dominant of all. So there is a huge history which you can actually read and you can get an idea. So I would like to, this is a website called The True Size. So this is the map that we are actually following in our day-to-day life. I would like to show how actually Greenland, and you can clearly see that Greenland and Africa are actually similar in this particular map. But this is the actual size of Greenland. And when I actually drag it towards Africa, I can see that what is the actual size of Africa when it comes to the real world. So this is where actually the projection plays a major role, because when we go with any sort of applications, we have to actually opt a particular projection which is required for us. For example, like now if we want to restrain only the shape, then we can go with it, go with the pseudo Mercator projection. For example, if you are going to actually measure the area, because most of you might be civil engineers and you will be actually working on real ground applications. So in those cases, you want a unit, you want the measurements to be in meters or kilometers or miles or feet. So in that case, what you should do is you should not go with the pseudo Mercator projection. You should go with the projection which has a proper units defined with it. So when you are going with the normal, there are like three types of projection. The first projection is geographical coordinate system, GCS, which is actually latitudes and longitudes. When you have a latitude and longitude represented in any of your image, that is in geographical coordinate system. And if you want to do your measurements in meters or feet or any other units, then you have to go with the projection called projected coordinate system. So that also, like I'll show it in your QGIS. When you go to QGIS, I'll show it. And the third projection is the user-defined coordinate system. So most of you might have actually worked with surveying instruments. So when you go with the surveying, we used to create a benchmark and we used to place the mark as 0,0. Then we will set the extent as 5,000 is to 5,000. So we don't know what is that particular 5,000 mean. Why we are actually setting that 5,000. We know that from that particular point, that is the 0,0, we all have a graph sheet. So we'll create the 0,0. So 5,000 meters along the x-axis and 5,000 meters along the y-axis. That is where we are going to survey. Yes, that is true. But what happens when you go beyond that 5,000? So that is what I'm going to show you here. So this is the actual projection. This is a GeoServer window where we have certain projections listed on it. So we can actually see what will happen to the entire area. For example, like this is EPSG 4326. EPSG is European Petroleum Survey Group. They define all the projections and assign a particular code for each and every projection. So if you come to this particular window, you can actually identify which projection is valid for which region. So each and every application has different codes. So for example, now our pseudo Mercator projection is 3857. So that projection is, you can see this particular projection is valid for all over the world. But the thing is like, it is valid for all over the world only as the shape is restrained. So each and every applications has different projections, and we should be able to choose the proper projection. So now, for example, like I'm in Tamil Nadu, I want to actually measure the area of a particular location. Then there is a projection called UTM projection. So this is a projected coordinate system where the units will actually be in meters. You can see the units are in meters, and you will have the easting and northing information also. So now we can see a particular red color highlighted region. So this particular projection is only valid for this particular locations. If you go outside it, you can see the regions are actually getting skewed. So now with this particular projection, that is 32644, the UTM 44 projection, we can't go, you can assign a data to UTM 44 projection, and we can't actually measure the area or distance in London or maybe in US. We can't do that. We should know how to actually select this particular projection for our particular application. So this is a basic concept. I hope actually like Mahalakshmi gave a brief introduction to this projection. So choosing a proper projection is mandatory in QGIS. So the reason why I'm actually giving this as an introduction topic is like, because when we are going with georeferencing is the concept by which an image is taken, for either using either it may be an aerial photograph, or maybe it might be through a satellite image, or maybe you can tie a balloon, like camera on a balloon, and you can fly it and you can capture images, whatever the images it is. So those images won't have any georeferencing information, that is the latitudes and longitudes information, or the northing and easting information. They don't have those coordinates where they are exactly located on the earth. So what we are going to do is, we are going to feed a particular latitude and longitude information to that particular image. So that process is actually called as georeferencing. So getting to this georeferencing in QGIS, this georeferencing process is not only possible in QGIS. There are different applications such as ArcGIS. You can go with GRASS, and there are different softwares where you can do it. But the main reason why we actually suggest QGIS is, this is an open source software. You don't need any license, and you can install it in any number of systems you want, and you can use it. So that is why we prefer QGIS compared to other softwares. So getting back to georeferencing. So now I hope everyone can see the screen. Whether my screen is visible? Can I get a confirmation alone?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Clear.
Okay. So to do the georeferencing in QGIS, we have a plugin called Georeferencer plugin. So we'll actually, I'll actually show it in QGIS. So can you see the image in the left-hand side? That is the image which is actually before georeferencing. So before georeferencing, whatever the image that is captured, that will be either in a rectangle or a square shape. That is how the image is. If you use different sort of a sensor, it might like capturing methods, it will be in different way how you are actually acquiring. But most of the images will be in this shape, where the north left coordinates will be assigned to 0, 0. If you open a raw image in your QGIS, you can go to the north left coordinate, and you can see the first pixel. It will be actually assigned to 0, 0. If you find an image with that particular, in that particular manner, then the image is actually not georeferenced. So we have to actually georeference the image. So to georeference the image, what is the process that we need? So in most of the applications, that when we go with the satellite data, today's world, we get the satellite image automatically georeferenced. But when we go with images that is obtained using drones, or whatever the satellite image we are actually getting is processed. So we'll actually have all the corners adjusted, and every information will be like updated. You will get a proper image that is ready to use. But in case if you are going with the image that is obtained using drone, then how do I actually georeference the image? So for georeferencing the image, there are actually two methods. The first method is, you can either use a topo sheet. So a topo sheet is a will be actually provided by, in India, it is provided by Survey of India. They provide the topo sheet at different scales, which has all the information about the Earth features. So if you don't have a topo sheet, or like for example, if I take a drone image, which will be of very high resolution, let's say 5 centimeter or 1 centimeter, that is the resolution of your drone image. So if you go with it, then in that case, I can't use a topo sheet to georeference my drone images, because the topo sheet will be of different scale and the drone images will be of different scale. So what do I do when I go with the drone image? Mostly all the drones in today's world are actually coming with an option called geotagging, which has a particular latitude and longitude assigned to a particular image, and a series of images will be captured. So based on that, it interpolates the latitude and longitude information, and it can georeference it. But if you don't have it, then what to do? You have to have a prior knowledge about the location. For example, now if you are actually taking an image of FX College, you have to have a proper idea of what is in FX College. First, you should know different identifiable features in it. For example, the main gate will be one identifiable feature. So what you have to do is you have to go to your main gate, use your DGPS for precise latitude and for obtaining precise latitude and longitude values, or else you can go with your normal like normal handle GPS or mobile applications where the accuracy will vary. You can go to that particular location. You can take the latitude and longitude information of that particular location. Similarly, you have to identify latitude and longitude information which is spread all over the image. It should not be focused only at one direction. Where if the college is a square, you should not focus only on the bottom left, or you should not focus only on bottom right. It should be scattered all over the image. Only then you will get a precise georeferencing. That only then the georeferencing will be perfect. So how many points are actually required for this georeferencing image? A minimum of 3 points is required, but the more number of points we actually provide as an input, the higher accuracy or georeferenced image will be. So this is the basic concept of georeferencing. So to actually do the georeferencing process in QGIS, we'll go with a georeferencer plugin, which is actually a plugin. You have to install it by going to manage and install plugins. So you will find an option called georeferencer GDAL. So most of you might have a doubt, what is GDAL? And most of you will be like, till this session, I hope most of you might have come across what is a vector data and a raster data. So vector data indicates like your point, line, and polygon, and raster is your whatever the images that we obtain is the raster. So we have certain programs which is written, and we have certain libraries to process each and every data sets. So for example, like most of you might have actually come across our 12th standard where like our PUC wherever like in our earlier stages, you would have actually gone with the C++ and C coding, where you'll say like hash include iostream.h. So what does that iostream.h mean? You say a dataset, but actually that's a library. It is an input-output library. So that is what each and everything means. For each and every process to execute, we need a library. So for executing a raster process, whatever the applications we are actually working with the raster, we need a GDAL library. GDAL is the library. When you got with any programming or any other stuff, find this GDAL library coming into picture. And we go to the vector. So for vector, and there is like this is a library. Is actually called OGR. OGR is the vector library, and we can say it is coming in different form. So each and every applications for handling the data structures and all those will be actually provided as an input, and you don't have to work on it. They will actually create a library which you can import and directly work with it. So we'll actually look into it. So when we go with this raster georeferencer, we'll actually, once we install it, and when you get into this, we'll have a window like this. We'll get a pop-up window like this, where one will be your map area and the other will be your control point area, and you will have a toolbox on the top, and there will be further options called. So these are some of the options that is actually present. So for georeferencing, so these are the tools that you should actually know. So the first thing which we will actually look into is whatever the image we are going to georeference, we have to add a ground control point. So to add a ground control point, you have to click at this particular shortcut. So if you actually, by mistake, if you actually got a point in the wrong position, to delete it, you can actually use this particular tool to delete that particular GCP. And when you go with the, for example, like if you have to move the point to certain location, then you can move the GCPs also. So there are like, if you have a GCP which is already existing, you can load those GCPs. You can save GCPs also for your future use. And once all these GCPs are done, we'll go to the transformation settings. So the transformation settings box will appear in this way, where we select the transformation type. So these are the different transformation types, where you can see there are like different linear, Helmut, polynomial 1, polynomial 2, polynomial 3. So each and everything is an equation. So if it is a line, linear means it will use a linear line to actually georeference the particular image. So when you are actually giving 4 points at 4 corners, and you are actually using interpolation, you are distributing the coordinates to the entire pixels. So it should use a background equation to assign the pixel values to the neighboring pixels. So that is why we use different equations, and these are the transformation types. And once we go with different equations, we'll get the level of accuracy will also increase. And in most of the cases, it is okay to go with the polynomial 1, where a minimum of 3 points is required. We can go with 4 also. That is not an issue. And in here, we'll actually enter a target SRS. Target SRS is the projection. So projection, when we are actually having a latitude and longitude values in our particular image, we can close our eyes and we can say that that's a geographical coordinate system, which is 4326 projection. Okay, so the next we can save the output, and we can generate the output. We can save the output and we can get a georeferenced image. So these are some of the steps. So when you click on add a control point, you will get a particular window like this, where you have to enter your degree, minutes, and seconds. So the way how you have to enter your degree, minutes, and seconds is like, you have to enter degree, space, minutes, space, seconds. If you have it in decimal degrees, you can enter it in such a way that degree dot decimal degrees. So that is how you have to enter it. So I hope most of you know what is X and what is Y. So as far as the GIS term is concerned, most of you would have actually come across till date saying that latitudes and longitudes. So by default, everyone would have actually got it in your mind that latitudes are x-axis values. That is your X is latitude and Y is longitude. But just imagine a graph sheet, and then you plot a value called X is equal to 1 and see what X is equal to 1 and Y varies from minus infinity to plus infinity. So this might be a sixth graph sheet, whatever we have solved in our 6th standard. So that is the basic concept for GIS. So you have to actually have an interpretation with your graph sheets, with your school time. So just draw a line and see, then you will understand which is longitude and which is latitude. So for a better understanding, whenever we say any particular stuff, we can say that longitude and latitude. When you come into GIS, you can have a concept of saying longitudes and latitudes, so that you will know that longitude is x-axis and latitude is y-axis. If you still have any doubt, as far as India is concerned, most of us will be working in India, I hope. So as far as India is concerned, the longitude value will be the larger value and latitude value will be the lesser value. So this is just a way to remember it. But when you go with the true concept of understanding, you have to actually get it completely with your graph sheet. Only then you will be able to understand the concepts clearly. So this will be the sample how this is the image that we are going to georeference, and this is just an example how it is actually done. Okay, so I hope most of you might have downloaded the image that I have sent. So please make sure you follow the procedure with me. And once I am done, I'll give you some time where you can actually try it, because since the time is also limited, I have to actually teach you how to do the process in a clear way. So just don't focus on doing the stuff, just focus towards the screen so that you will be able to get what I am doing. So this is the QGIS window. So most of you might be aware of how to install a plugin. So if you are like not aware of how to install a particular plugin, go to plugins and there will be an option called manage and install plugins. Just click on manage and install plugins. So in this plugin, you can type georeferencer. So you'll find maybe someone will be finding a freehand raster georeferencer. That is not required as of now. We have to go with georeferencer GDAL. So this is the plugin that we are actually going to use. So just enable it. In most of the cases, it will be actually installed because this is a core plugin in QGIS. So you don't need an internet connection for this. Just enable the plugin and then you can close it. So once you enable the plugin, you can find the option in raster. Under raster, you will find an option called georeferencer. In some cases, most of the people won't find the option called georeferencer under your raster. What you have to do is you have to go to plugins, click on manage and install plugins and search for georeferencer and enable it. So I'm moving to the next step. So just click on raster. It will take you to georeferencer and click on this georeferencer. So now you will get a new window that is popping up. So in this particular window, what we have to do is we have to open our raw image. So the image is actually present. I'm going to the QGIS window. I'm actually showing how the image will be present before georeferencing. So this is a raw topo sheet of Warangal. So once you select any data, it will actually ask for a projection. This is actually a coordinate reference system. It will ask for a particular projection. Since the topo sheet, whichever is provided to us, will be having latitude and longitude in it, we can by default select 4326 projection. And most of you might be actually having a confusion that what projection or how to choose the projection. So as I said, you can see this is the geographical coordinate system, projected coordinate system, and user defined. So user defined is different. Projected is considering the earth as a flat surface, and you will have the units in meters or feet based on whatever the projection system is. But as far as like geographic coordinate system is concerned, we can go with the 4326 projection, which is a universally accepted one for when you have latitudes and longitudes in it. So I'm going with the 4326 projection. So we added the topo sheet. Now we can see I'm going to the top left corner. Now I can see this particular pixel is assigned to a value of 0, 0. If you go precisely to the center of that particular pixel, you can see that is 0, 0. But now also you can see approximately 0, 0. So once you see an image that is loaded inside your QGIS in 0, 0, that means the image is not georeferenced. So how do we actually georeference this image? To do that, you have to go to your georeferencer window. So this is your georeferencer window. To open the image, go to File and then click on Open Raster. In some of the cases, if this toolbox is not visible, you can actually enable all these toolbars. You can just click on enable all these three options so that it will be actually visible. If you want GCP table, in some cases it will be actually missing, so you can actually enable and disable it. So now I'm actually going to open a raster. So now it is asking for a projection coordinate system. I'm selecting as 4326. Yeah. So this is my topo sheet. So our topo sheet will always hold information in the all four edges of the image. In case I have actually given you a topo sheet. I have given you a cropped topo sheet without all this latitude and longitude information. Then how will you actually georeference this particular topo sheet? There is a way. What you have to do is you have to identify a particular place name. For example, topo sheets will actually hold certain locations in it. You can identify the place name. You can Google it and find which is the location. You can go to the particular location and find what is the scale of this particular topo sheet which is occupying that particular location. You can identify whatever the topo sheet that is given. You can identify which is what is this particular corners, and in case if the topo sheet number is given, each topo sheet will actually hold a number like this. So if the topo sheet number is given, you can use the topo sheet number to get the coordinates also. So that is also possible. When you have a topo sheet, it is very easy for you to identify which location it is. So this is a water body. So with this water body can also be actually taken as a reference to identify which location it is. But in this particular example, we are actually having all 4 coordinates which is provided. So I'm directly going to georeference this image. So to georeference it, we have to first open the image and then go to edit, and you will find an option called add point. Click on add point, and the shortcut is also available. You can click on it. So once you click on add point, just zoom to the corner. Don't zoom it too much. Just zoom as per the limitations, whatever the requirement it is required. Just zoom it and place a single point. So once you place a single point on it, you will find this particular pop-up. Once you make a single left click, if you make a single left click, you will get this particular pop-up. So now we have our X and Y values to be entered. As I said, for India, the larger value will be the X value and smaller value will be the Y value. So if you want to have a clear picture of how it is and why it is like why I'm actually saying X value is 80, you can actually see the value increases along X axis 80, and at this particular location it is 80.7.3. So 80 degrees, 7 minutes and 30 seconds. So along the X axis, the value is increasing. So that means this is actually in like the value is longitude. And when you go with along the Y axis, so this is the Y axis. So we can see here the latitude values increases along the Y axis 18,730. And here the value is 1815. So we should be very clear in defining all these latitude and longitude values. If you define it in a wrong way, the output will be like either tilted or you won't get a proper output. So now this is the next point. I'm placing it over here. 80 space 7 space 30. Similarly 18 space 15. And make sure this should be in the exact joining point of the latitude and longitude. Don't place it at this particular location or don't place it somewhere here. This is the line and this is the joining point of this X and Y axis. So make sure you are placing it at the perfect location. You have to place it at all 4 corners. So now we can see all the 4 edges of the image has been provided the latitude and longitude values. So this is how you provide your latitude and longitude values to your particular image. Zoom to the extent first. Zoom to the extent. Go to edit and click on add point. Once you make a single left click at the particular junction, you will get a pop-up where you have to enter your latitude and longitude values. Enter your latitude and longitude values and then click OK. Similarly, you have to do it for all 4 corners. So once you have done it, once you are done with this particular process, the next thing is we have to go and give our transformation settings. So to do that, click on this transformation settings. You can go to settings and click on transformation settings, or else there is a shortcut which you can use, that is the transformation settings. So click on it. So now you can, before setting the transformation, you can see the residual is actually 0. So now we'll actually set the transformation settings. So the transformation type, you can go with any of the option. I'm actually preferring polynomial 1, and the resampling method can be also any resampling method. I'm going with nearest neighborhood. So the target projection. So since the coordinates in this particular image is in latitudes and longitudes, we can go with 4326. That is your WGS 84 projection. So the units also is in degrees. If you just place your cursor on it, you can see the units are in degrees. So now the next is where you have to save your output. So just provide the location where it has to be saved. And if you want, you can generate the PDF map and PDF report also. And you can enable this operation, load in QGIS when done. So this is the entire setup, which you can actually get this particular settings for a optimal result. If you want, when you are having so many points, you can go with the polynomial 2. For polynomial 2, a minimum of 6 points is required. If it is 6 points, then you have to actually go with a minimum of 7 points to get a better result. So that is how you have to actually go with the particular transformation type. You have to choose the transformation type in an optimal way. Okay. And once the setting is done, you can click OK. And now you can see the residuals. So these are the residuals. And in most of the cases, everyone will say, most of the lectures will be saying that you should maintain a minimum residual as much as possible. Yes, that is true. You have to maintain the error, you have to make sure the error is less than 1. But in some cases, most of the images will be a scanned image. For example, like the one which is drawn in AutoCAD. Since most of you are civil engineers, you will actually have an image which is drawn in AutoCAD. So you will be importing that particular image. In that case, you will face difficulties in getting the residuals less than 1. That is not an issue. The reason is because when it comes to the real world and when it is in an AutoCAD image, there will be a deflection and there will be a variation. We can try to match it as much as possible, but we can't match it perfectly at any sense, because each and everything when you are doing manually, there will be an error. So we don't have to worry about it, but we should make sure that the error is as minimum as possible. So once we enter all these coordinates and set the transformation settings, you can go to File and you can start your georeferencing process. Now you can click on Start Georeferencing. The shortcut will also be there. You can click on this shortcut also. It will start the process. So once the process is done, you will get a message called Georeference Successful. So now if you go to your georeferencer window, that is like QGIS window, and if you zoom into your particular image, that is the output. And here I didn't rename it. I named it as AP Topo Modified. So if you right click on the layer and if you click on zoom to layer, now you can see the image is actually distributed with the latitude and longitude values. You can see the latitude and longitude values in this. If I go to this particular corner, I can see 80 degree and 18.25 minutes. Latitude and longitude values is present over here. So whether I have georeferenced this image properly, whether this is how it is located in the earth or not, I don't know. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to verify it. So there is a mapping services. There is a plugin called Quick Map Services with which you can actually import your Google image, or you can have a background of your Google image in this particular in your QGIS window. So I'm loading Google satellite image just for visualization. So now we can see this is the water body which is present in Google, and the same is present in the topo sheet. Can you see this? And this is a forest region. Yes, that is a forest region. We can see a built-up located here. So the same built-up is located in the topo sheet also. So now this particular topo sheet is geo-referenced, and this particular topo sheet is placed exactly where it is located on the earth. So anyone is having any doubt till this particular point? Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So shall I proceed with the next one?
Sure, sir.
Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead with the next one. So now we have our topo sheet. This is geo-referenced. So we had all the latitude and longitude coordinates. So with that as a reference, we geo-reference this particular image. What if when we have an aerial image, which is not having any latitude and longitude values, then how do we geo-reference that particular image? So I'm going to demonstrate that particular right now. So the same window, you have to go to you have to go to the georeferencer, and when you are actually going to georeference image or as aerial image, you should have a reference image. So this is actually the reference image that we are going to use to georeference the satellite image. So this is the satellite image which is taken from a Landsat satellite. So this is the Landsat image. So as we see, we can see the water body and the forest location also very clearly. So this is an image, and if I go to the left top corner, the first pixel is actually 0,0. That means this is not georeferenced. So I have to georeference this particular image with this topo sheet as reference, because I should have a reference. Just like that, I can't actually georeference this image because I don't have any GCP points. If I have a GCP location, for example, like I might have actually went to this particular location and I would have actually collected a point over that particular location. In that case, I can use this those particular GCPs to georeference this. But now I don't have all those GCPs. So I'm using the topo sheet as reference. I'm going to georeference the satellite image. So to do that, first you have to open your satellite image. The projection is 4326 since all the coordinates are in latitudes and longitudes. So now what you have to do is you should be able to identify some common features between the topo sheet. So you should be able to identify some common identifiable features between the topo sheet and the image. So here there is one water body, and the same water body is present here. So one water body is clearly visible. So here one water body is there, and here also one water body is there. And make sure the feature should be visible very clearly. You should not go with some junk location. For example, like not in the center of the water body. You have to give at least the edges. This edge is visible, and at the same time in the topo sheet also this edge is visible. Similarly, you have to identify similar and identifiable features. Not like I can't place a point in the center of the water body and I can come here and place the same point in the center of the water body. It should not be like that. The point should be identifiable between both the images. So I'm going to select a few points. So the first point is, so let me take this as my first point. So this is my first point. Go to add a new control point. Click on that point. So now you will get the latitude and longitude values. You have to enter the latitude and longitude. I don't know the latitude and longitude values. So there is an option called from map canvas. You can see the option called from map canvas. So click on from map canvas. It will redirect you to your QGIS window. So come to that particular exact location and just make a single left click. Once you make a single left click, by default, the values will be automatically filled in your coordinate system. Just click OK. So now you placed one particular point. Similarly, we can go to this particular point from map canvas. So now I have actually given 4 points at 4 corners. Can you see? One point is here at the bottom left. The other one is at bottom right. One is at the top right, and the next is at top left. So I have scattered the points all over the image. So if you are able to identify some different points, whatever the points it is which you can identify, you can select all those points. Make sure you you are able to identify the same feature in your image also. This water body is also one which is identifiable. If you want, you can give it. So similarly, add few more points also to get a precise output, to increase the quality of your output. So now I have given all the locations. So the same procedure. Once you enter all the 4 points, go to the transformation settings. Select the transformation type, resampling method, and projection. And then provide where you need to save your output, and then you can click OK. And then you can start the process of start georeferencing. So now the image is georeferenced. If you go to zoom to the extent of that particular image, you can see before the image was actually not there. It was lying somewhere else. So you can see in the coordinates in the bottom, it is actually in nowhere. It is like nowhere in the map. It is like it is not exactly located on the surface of the earth. But as you zoom in, you can find the images georeferenced, and it comes exactly to the location where it is present on the map. We can have a reference to the Google also. So now this is the georeferenced image. So can you see this? So this is a way how we can actually georeference one particular scanned image, that is a topo sheet, or aerial image that is obtained. So these are some particular these are ways how we can actually georeference an image. So most of you might be actually working on Google Images. So you will be actually using, so for creating an index map, you might be actually in need of a Google image. So how do I actually download a Google image? So that is also possible in QGIS, but you can download only one particular tile at a time. You can't download a series of images. You have to download it one by one. Most of them will be actually like referring you LSIL GIS, or they'll be suggesting you Universal Map Downloader. But for creating an index map, when we need a Google image, we need all those funda. What you can do is just go to your project, and there will be an option called export, import or export. You can find an option called export map to image. So what this will export is, this will export the image that is actually visible in the screen. in this QGIS screen, whatever the images that is visible, that will be clearly exported. Even if you have your topo sheet, the topo sheet also will be exported along with this. So whatever the image, if in case I need only the Google map, then I have to actually enable only the Google, and I can go to export map as image. This will give you a picture of how it has to actually save and what is the extent and all those things. We don't need to choose any of the option. We can just simply click on save. I'm putting it in my Google image. So now I have my Google image that is saved. So what you have to do is open your Google image. Just go to the particular folder and open your Google image. It will ask for a projection. So what you have to do is before saving the image, you have to note what projection is be in your right hand bottom corner. You have to note what is the projection in which this particular data is saved. So this particular image is saved in 4326 projection. So I'm opening the image. When the image opens, I'm giving the projection as 4326. So I'm adding the image, sorry. So now if you see this particular, if you go to the properties of that particular image, you can find the projection is assigned as 4326 and the extent is 17 and 18 and all these information are assigned. Now you can zoom out and check. This is the Google image that we have actually downloaded. You can save it. You can go to raster, you can export it, and you can use for any, you can save it in any other format that is required. So more like you can reproject it to any other projection also. So by source, the source projection will be 4326 and the target projection, since it is in Warangal, the projection is 32644 and I'm saving it in a projected coordinate system because I wanted to show how the projected coordinate system looks like. You can change the format also. Now you can see that this is the source projection is 4326 and the target projection is 32644 and this is the Google image that I'm using. So now I'm clicking on the process. Once the process is done, you can find the Google image, and one particular issue is there. The thing is, just go to the properties and you can find the projection is changed to EPSG 32644 and you can find the extent which is showing in some 6 digits and 7 digits or maybe 8 digits. But the thing is, like when you come back to your QGIS window, in your coordinates, you still find the coordinates as 80 degree and 18 minutes. 80 degree and 18 minutes. So this is still in longitudes and latitudes. So how do I find, okay, whether just by opening the data, how do I find whether the data is in exactly perfect location or not? What projection it is? How do I identify? In most of the GIS softwares, that is like either if it is QGIS or ArcGIS, there is a concept called on-the-fly projection. So what this on-the-fly does is like when you open any data, like let us say if you're having hundreds of data in hundreds of different projections, when you upload one particular data, that is the first data that you are uploading, that particular projection will be taken into picture. Whereas all the other 99 projections, what will happen is like it will automatically reproject the data and show it in the data in the projection that you have loaded first. So since I loaded all the data in 4326 projection, I'm actually seeing the data also in 4326 projection only. So this is because the on-the-fly projection is enabled. If you want to disable this on-the-fly projection and you want to have, in most of the cases, people might be actually facing this issue. Some will be trying to clip the data, but the clipping process won't happen. You will be actually having your polygon on top of your raster, but it still won't clip. The main reason is because of this particular issue. the on the fly is enabled. So now what you have to do is you have to click on this particular EPSG 4326, and then you will find an option called no projection. Just enable this no projection, and then you can click on apply and OK. And now if you go to this particular data, you can see the units are in some 6 digits and 7 digits. So this unit is actually in meters. If you right click on the data and go to properties, you can see the unit is in meters, and you can see the extents also. So now within this particular data, you can do all the hydrological analysis, because for all the hydrological analysis, you need your data to be in projected coordinate system. And you can find the area or whatever the process that has to be done that can be carried out with this particular image. And if you want to carry out if you want to identify your particular location, that is the latitude and longitude location, or some kind of where I'm exactly located, in that case, you can use the geographical coordinate system. So each and every projection has different applications and different like requirements. So based on the requirements, you should be able to choose your projection also. So any other doubts, if anyone is having, you can actually raise it right now. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah.
Please re-explain the CRS change.
CRS times. Okay.
Why we change CRS of a Google image?
Okay. So coming to the first point, I will explain what is CRS. Okay. So CRS is the coordinate reference system. Okay. So now, like let us say I am in India. So when we go with this particular Indian location, when we create any sort of a map to match the Indian condition, we can restrain only few parameters. For example, shape can be maintained, or area can be maintained, or only the direction can be maintained, or only few stuffs can be maintained. All these parameters cannot be maintained within a single map. So that is the main issue which is actually faced as far as GIS terms are concerned. So what experts came out is they came out with the concept of projections for each and every individual locations with different concepts. So that is why when you come to this particular projection, you will find geographical coordinate system, which is a 3D shape. You can see on the top of this geographical coordinate system, which is circular. That means 3D in shape. And when you come to the projected coordinate system, it is 2D in shape. You can see that it is a flat map. The 3D data is projected directly into a 2D data. So I hope most of you are seeing my screen. So yeah, so this is actually the Earth surface. You can't say that actually the Earth surface is exactly, some of you will say round, some of you will say circle, some will say sphere, some will say ellipsoid, some will say geoid. So, but we can't say the exact, we can't actually describe the structure of the surface of the Earth exactly. So what we will do is, like, we have a particular mathematical surface which matches approximately with the surface of the Earth. So that surface is only which we are using as a reference datum. That is either ellipsoid or a geoid. So that is what we are using as a reference system for all our projections. So in most of the projections, what is happening is, like, we are actually converting the 3D terrain into a 2D terrain. So what we are going to do is, we are having an undulated surface that we are actually matching with an approximate ellipsoid. That is a 3D, three-dimensional approximation of this surface. And then we are projecting it to a flat map. So this is the map that you will be coming across from your earlier stages. So this is what the data actually seen. So what we are doing is, like, we are actually projecting a data from a 3D surface to a 2D surface. So when we are projecting it, what happens is, like, we might have actually came across the concept in engineering graphics. So in engineering graphics, we might have actually like used you might have used conical projection and kind of different concepts. What if a surface is actually cut, and what when you actually spread it out, how it will look like. So we have different concepts. So EG is the basic for this map projection. So how they will do it? They'll have a map. They will place a light in the at a different location, and they will project it, and whatever flashes on the like on the flat terrain, that is what that they will map. So there are different like cylindrical projection. Yeah, these are some of the concepts like developing map surface, cylindrical projection, and this is a conical projection. So there are different concepts of projections. So this, if I take this particular the concept alone, it will take so much of a time. That is why I'm actually like explaining it at a very slow rate, at a very in a brief way. So there are different transformation types. These are all transformation types. So when it comes to the entire world, we can't actually map all the locations with a single projection. For example, if we go with India, India is not located near the equator. If we can go with the equator or the locations that are near the equator, then we can actually go with this cylindrical development surface. The reason is because the cylinder will be placed which touches the equator. So as far as the locations that are near the equator, the distortions will be less. But as we go up, the distortions will be more. So that is which happens when we actually see this pseudo Mercator projection. When you see Africa, which is in the center, but when you go to the top, when you see the Greenland, it becomes like 14 or 15 times larger its original shape. So that is which happens when we are developing surfaces. So what we'll do is like we'll use different surfaces. Like when you're having at India is above equator, and so we'll actually go with the conical projection which touches some spots. So there are like tangent projection, cylindrical projection, azimuth projection. So all these will be like taken into consideration, and we will consider different projections. So this is an example of India looking at 4 different projections. So these are the EPSG codes. If you have an India map, you can actually have a look at it. India will be like in 4 different shapes. With this, we can't do any sort of an analysis, or it won't be actually, it can't be of any use for any users. Like what we can say, when we have different distortions, for example, like take the projections of US into, I can't take the projection of US into India because it will give a false information for India. So that is why I am actually speaking about projection. So we have to know what projection we have to choose for our particular data. So for choosing this particular projection only, like when we are actually working on, we have different concepts of projection. But to be very narrow and to get directly to what we need, we can actually say if you are working with latitudes and longitudes. For example, you might be with working with different applications. I just want only the locations of the places. Then I can say I'll go with latitudes and longitudes, because latitudes and longitudes help us understand where the location is. So in that case, we'll go with geographical coordinate system. So we'll have latitudes and longitudes. But if most of the civil engineers want the area to be measured, what if I want the entire area of Chennai to be measured? What if I want to develop a contour for all over Tamil Nadu? So these are some of the process that takes time. So when we come with all these processes, contours is completely different. That is like not into this picture because that projection can be any stuff, but there is a horizontal projection which comes into picture. So those concepts are a bit critical when you go with that, but we'll have only the vertical projection which is playing a major role here. So when we go with, for example, like I want to find the area of Francis Xavier College. If we take a total station, if you go to the field and if I measure it, the units won't be exactly the same. I won't get a proper output. And if I use latitude and longitude coordinates, for example, like, so if I use this geographical coordinate system to measure the area of this particular lake, I'm randomly measuring it, randomly creating a layer. So this is my polygon layer. I'm creating one, just a demo document. I'm creating it. So this is the layer. Yeah, a rough digitization of this particular layer. I'm not digitizing it perfectly, just a rough. So I need to calculate the area of this particular location. Just a second. So let QGIS load. Whether anyone is having any other issues? Okay, I see some queries over here. How to reduce errors? So as far as like if you want to reduce your errors, you have to actually choose the proper like locations. That is the GCPs, ground control points. You can either go with the DGPS survey or a handheld GPS and find the exact location on the surface, and then you can use those particular locations and georeference your image so that your residuals will be like minimized. I lost when, okay, I'll repeat the process again. Slides, I can't, sorry, I can't share the slides, but I will actually share the step-by-step document for each and every process. So that will be shared to you by the end of this training. And what is the standard projection for India? As far as India is concerned, we have different projections. Like we can go with like 4326 or UTM projection. That is what most of the scientists and all over the researchers are working on. That is the geographical coordinate system. That is what everyone is working on. But India also has its own projected coordinate system. That is, India has its Everest coordinate system, and also like there is a coordinate system which is called, I guess, Kalinga or something will be there. I'll try to figure out like now. I'll show you. Just a second. Yeah. So yeah. So this is the polygon that I have created. So now I'm going and calculating the area when I'm using geographical coordinate system. So this is the area column. So yes, update existing field. Okay, so this is an update in QGIS 3, I guess. So now you are actually getting the area properly. So this is the area, the units are in meters, but in the previous versions, what you will have is like you will get the units in degree, you will get the units in degrees. That is, your values will be 0.000, some degrees will be there. So that case, you will face some issues. And the next thing is like when you go with slope, you will have your digital elevation and you will have your slope. So when you go with slope, what will happen is like the elevation, that is your horizontal values will be in meters and the vertical values will be in degrees. So in some cases, when you create a slope, all your values will be in 89 degree when you find slope. So 89 degree slope won't be there. Anywhere like we can't find all the slopes are steep. So in that case, this will be actually useful. Most of the hydrological applications and most of the most of the places where we go with this area measurements and all those things, we have to go with the universal, like that is UTM projection. So that is how we'll actually go with it. And what is the difference between geographical coordinate system and projected coordinate system? Geographical coordinate system, you will have your coordinate system in latitudes and longitudes. Whereas in projected coordinate system, you will have your units in meters. So this is a projected coordinate system. So if I come to this particular location, I can see the coordinates are in meters. You can see the coordinates also. At the same time, you can open a reprojected image. a reprojected image, if you open and check, in this also the coordinates will be found in meters. So this is a variation when based on the applications. If I'm going to find the area, or if I'm going to measure the distance for network analysis or some other applications which is related to distance or area, you have to go with 32644 projection. And most of the tools that we are actually having in QGIS will take the data, that's fine. But when you are actually going with advanced analysis, so mostly in Postgres, or when you are creating your own programming in Python, or maybe in R programming, in those cases, you have to define the projections properly. We can't go with just a namesake projection. Based on the applications, you should know for area measurement or length measurements, I should have the units in meters. So based on that, we should be able to choose the proper projection first. So for example, like if I don't know what is the projection, I don't know, like this is my location, I'm in Chennai, I don't know whether I should use UTM 44 or 43 or 42, I don't know, means UTM projection shapefile is also there. You can search online UTM shapefiles. So automatically you will get a shapefile where you can import that particular shapefile inside your QGIS, and you can find which zone is actually inside which zone your study area is lying in, so that you can use it properly. And why we use polynomial 1? It is not that you have to use polynomial 1. You can use polynomial 2. You can use polynomial 3. You can use linear. You can use Helmut. Any equations can be used. It is like I have two values. I want to find the middle values. For example, like I have a value called 1 and I have a value called 10. If I use a linear equation, all the values in between, let us say I want 8 values in between, it will give a linear values that will be exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If I use a polynomial 1 equation, then it might be like 1, then 2.1 or 1.9, then followed by 2.8, 3.7. So similarly, the variations will be there. So this is how each and every polynomial equation, because polynomial means it has additional one value. It has one more parameters to define its own. It had one more parameter to define the values. So you will get a better accuracy when you are actually going with the polynomial 1. You can go with polynomial 2, but you have to give the required number of points so that you will have much more like accuracy when compared to the previous stuff. And as one explained, one requested the georeferencing process. I will repeat it again. So to do the georeferencing, you have to have a process. You have to go to raster and you have to go to georeferencer. Click on georeferencer. You will get this particular pop-up. So in this, just go to the file and click on open raster. Open a topo sheet that is not georeferenced, or open an image that is not georeferenced. You have to choose the projection since the values are in latitudes and longitudes. Just latitudes and longitudes. Close your eyes and you can go with 4326 projection. If you have some other values that is 6 or 7 digits, then you can say like that's in UTM. And as far as India is concerned, most of us go with this UTM and this project, like what? UTM and WGS 84 projection only. And India also have its own projection, that is this Everest projection. You can see this is only for India. 37203. So this is an projection that is only for India, and India has this particular data. So Indians are the one who developed this. Similarly, like in projected coordinate system also, you will have, okay, this is not the Kalinga, yeah, Kalinapur. So this is the so this is the projected coordinate system for India. So you can find it in here. So these are for different locations. This is for zone 0. So they split it into different zones. Yeah, so this is only for this northern portion. And yes, zone 3, this is mid of India. So similarly, we have different zones. So if you're working with Tamil Nadu, and if you want it to be in a projected coordinate system for all over Tamil Nadu, you can go with 24374. This will be the projected coordinate system for Tamil Nadu. Similarly, like we also have our own projected and also geographic coordinate system, and each and every country also has its own projected coordinate system. So, for example, this is one which is actually used at this, I don't know exactly, maybe Cambodia and other locations. So they use a projection called India 1960. So there are different projections. So each and every locations in different world has their own projections. Every country has their own projections. So NAD 83 is the projection that will be actually used by US mostly. Yeah. So this is US and Canadian projections. So similarly, like there are different projections, but we should be able to choose what projection is for which location on the Earth. As far as the cadastral map, you can actually go with this user-defined coordinate system, because most of the cadastral maps will have their own coordinate system. Because whatever the maps that we are actually like, maybe when you are creating in AutoCAD, we will have a coordinates called 0, 0. We will set this 0, 0, and then we will actually go with this. So it is better to go with your own projected coordinate system. In case if you don't know like how to have your own projected coordinate, if you don't know how to have your own coordinate system, you can go with the you can go with a projected coordinate system. That is UTM coordinate system is much preferred, because all the units will be mostly in meters. It won't be in degrees. So let us say a road is of at 5 kilometers, means those units will be in kilometers, those won't be in degrees. So you have to go with the projected coordinate system. I suggest UTM. If you want a better accuracy, you can go with your own project coordinate system, maybe geographic or projected, but projected is preferred. Topo sheets or raster image. So what is the grid size? Topo sheets are actually scanned images. There is no concept called a grid size. If you, it's just a photograph. For example, like if I use a 12 megapixel camera, it will be like a better resolution. If I use an 8 megapixel camera, it will be a bit lower resolution. So it's based on the scanning stuff only. Images will be like an image, but whatever the resolution that we need and the grids, it will actually vary. It is not, we can't actually define that. But when we actually get a particular scan topo sheet from Survey of India, we'll actually get it in a vector format, not as an image. So we will actually convert it into a raster. We can actually define what sort of a grid is required, but more than sufficient sort of an information will be should be actually we should be able to get it.
Sir, shall I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Sir, for India, if we use the average data, which should be proper, okay.
Sir, actually, can you please type your question in the chat box, so that because I couldn't actually get what you were asking. Can you please type it so that I'll be able to see it clearly?
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, and other thing, so what happens? So now we have seen with the concept of georeferencing a raster image. So what happens when I have to georeference a vector image? So what should I do when I have to georeference a vector image? The concept is there is a when you have to georeference a vector data, that is like not a vector image, it's a vector data, either a point, line, or a polygon. There is a plugin called Vector Bender, which you have to use. Vector Bender. So this is the plugin that you have to use. So this particular plugin will actually take some time also, and at the same time, this process is a bit tedious compared to the normal georeferencing. The procedure is same, but still it will take some time, and that is why I just restricted this to georeference just the like our satellite image or an aerial image, because more than 99% of our data, of our vector data, will be actually be provided with the coordinate system. We don't have to go ahead and we don't have to georeference the vector data. That necessity won't actually happen. And in case if you are actually having a AutoCAD file and if you want to import it inside QGIS, in that case we will be actually using this vector bender. So I'll actually just give a small demo how you have to use this vector bender. So when you use the vector bender, there will be actually two options. So the first option will be layer to bend. So that by default you have to provide a layer that has to be actually georeferenced, and the pairwise layer. So this layer you have to create it. So once you click on this particular option, you will get a vector bender. What you have to do is you have to start editing both the options. Then you have to go to the particular window that is, yeah. Okay, I guess, yeah. So what you have to do is you have to go to this option and you have to create a new feature first. You have to go to the snapping options also before. Go to snapping, enable the snapping, and then once you click on it, start make a single left click. This is the from point, and where does it end? So this will be the 2 point. So now this is done. So I want this particular location to be moved here. So this particular location to be moved here. I'm just demonstrating it. So this should be moved to this location, and maybe this to this location. So this is a direct process. So now I gave all the four. Okay. So I gave all the 4 points. This is just an example. In your case, if you know finer details, you can go with the finer details. So now I created all the 4 points. You can just simply click on run, so that the entire image will be like the entire vector will be actually stretched. So once you are done with it, you have to stop editing your layer and you have to save it. Only then the process will be saved. So this is the procedure how you have to actually georeference your vector layer. So most of the cases this will be actually used for your AutoCAD file. So coming back to the question, in QGIS there are Everest datum, but which datum is most appropriate for India? See, sir, actually like when we go with the projection, Everest. So you can see that this is the this is the datum, that is the geographical coordinate system datum for India. And when we speak about this datum is like we have EGM 96 and WGS 84 datum. So datum will be like a sort of an ellipsoid or a geoid. So these 2 concepts only will come into picture. So datum doesn't matter, because like when we go with our Cartosat image, in most of the cases, Cartosat DEM, most of the cases, if you go and check the elevation of Chennai, you will find the values are in negative values. So the data will be actually in ellipsoidal projection. It will be in geoid projection. You have to bring it back to ellipsoid. So that will be the actual concept. There will be a layer called a geoid layer, which you have to add with that particular Cartosat, so that you can bring it back to the exact datum which is like followed. So as far as India is concerned, it is not about the datum, because whatever the whatever the stages that we are actually like, whatever the projection that we are using, even 4326 or even when we go with our UTM projection, when they would have actually created that particular projection for India, they would have considered the Everest projection also, Everest datum also into account. So we don't have to worry about it. But since it is a global projection, we are actually using WGS 84 and UTM. If you want to go with your own GCS India projection also, we can go with it. This also will have the units in meters only, like units in decimal degrees only. And when you go with Kalinga, that is like Kalinapur projection. So if you are actually working on Tamil Nadu, you can go with Kalinapur zone 4. And if you are going with zone, if you are going to work with the Arunachal Pradesh, West Bengal or those locations, you can go with zone 2. So that is not an issue at any time. You can choose your projection based on your own applications. So the applications plays a major role. Which projection comes into, like, which projection you have to choose. Please say the EPSG. EPSG is like a European Petroleum Survey Group. They are the one who maintain or who collect all this projection from different source and assign a particular code. So the most widely used projection is 4326. So that is the code of WGS 84. You can say that if you are having latitudes and longitudes, you can close your eyes and say 4326. That is the projection. And if you want to go with units such as meters or in feet, there are like different applications, but most of the applications as far as India is concerned will be going with meters. There you can actually go with 326. This will bring the UTM projection into account. And zone, Indian zone starts from 42. If you see, India starts from 42. So smaller portion in Gujarat, the 42 will be taken into picture, and 43 will be for Maharashtra. Sorry. So 43 will be for some location in Maharashtra, and 44 will be for some location with our Tamil Nadu covering Andhra to Orissa. 45, which will be going till West Bengal, and 46 will be covering some portions of Assam, and at last you will have 47, which covers a small portion of Arunachal Pradesh. So we should be able to, so this is the main projection. You can go with 4326, and as far as projected coordinates is concerned, 326, 42 to 47. That is the EPSG codes. So Google Earth has coordinate. Can we georeference an aerial image through Google Earth? Yes, you can. What you can do is, like, if I, for example, like, yeah, so this is my Google image and I have it in 4326 projection, let us say. So this is a Google image which I downloaded, and this is in 4326 projection. This is also having latitudes and longitudes. You can have a raw or an aerial image. You can go here to your georeferencer window where you can open your satellite image. You can open a non-georeferenced satellite image. You can choose the proper projection. Whatever the projection it is, you have to check it, check which projection is provided for that particular data. And then you can start georeferencing the data. You can go from map canvas, you can select the coordinates and you can georeference it easily. That is possible. Okay, any other queries? So yes, so let me give a small introduction about our company also. So we are actually a GIS company who are actually working on different GIS data products and also IT based projects. So most of our clients are from US, Canada, and different other locations. And we also actually like train people who are actually like from colleges, and as said in the previous, like as said by the person who actually introduced me, KCube actually runs a training academy which is called GIS Edify, where we also offer online courses also, and also like we have it's some sort of an Udemy or Coursera page where you can actually have your own courses also. So that particular GIS Edify page is actually under construction. And we also have an active Facebook page called GIS Edify. So this is our active page where you can actually post any of your queries, or if you are in need of any sort of a lecture or a demo from or a training session from our end, you can actually request for a training. And if you have any doubt in your future, you can actually contact me at this is my email ID and this is my phone number. And in case if you need to contact our office, that is regarding some trainings or something, you can always contact Kavita at kcubeconsulting.com. So these are the details, and whatever the queries it is, you can actually post it in our GIS Edify group also, so that we will be able to help you. And these are the informations that is actually like if you need any, if you have any queries, you can actually ping me in WhatsApp also. I'm active in your FX WhatsApp group also. Whatever the queries you face, you can actually ping me. And further, if you have any other queries, you can let me know. Any other queries?
Dear participants, if you have any query, just ask me. Ask to resource person. Any queries or doubts?
Yeah, and I'll share a step-by-step tutorial of this georeferencing will be actually shared, and I'll share it maybe with the professor of FX College, and he will actually send it through mail or whatever the mode. He will actually share it with you. And yes, say about polyconic projection. So yeah, so like we can say actually like when we go with the any sort of a projection. So for example, let us say each and every surface. So whatever the surface that is actually which we are actually developing. So I guess I'm not presenting it. Yes. Yeah. So whatever the surface that we are actually projecting, it doesn't matter like how we are actually projecting it. The accuracy of each and every location matters. So it never matters like whether we are using a conical surface or a cylindrical surface or any surface. That is not an issue. The actual concept which comes into picture, just a second, let me check it. No, it's not here. So most of you, so this is like one example. So this is how actually a projection happens. So if you actually put a light, and if you are actually keeping your hands in front of it, your shadow will be actually reflected on the surface of on the wall. So that is the basic concept how map is being projected. So for example, this is the best example. So see, this is a cylindrical projection. So when you are going with this cylinder and it is placed at the center, you can have a clear look at the center. So when it is actually covering the closer portion. So if you see this particular image very clearly, you can see it here. Yeah. So not this. Yeah. So you can see here at the center, the distortions will be simple. But when we go towards the poles will have huge distortion. That is why your Greenland is actually getting so much of an issue. And when we come with this particular North Pole, Arctic or Antarctic, you should go with the tangential or a planar projection. So when you are in India or when you are near England or any other locations that is on top of it, we go with the conical projection. So always the surface that we are actually using to project the data, that is the terrain that is present in the bottom. So we will actually project it to, we are going to project a complete circular surface. The best example is your chocolate. If you see a round chocolate, you can actually see both the corners are tied. When you open up, your center will be exactly the same. There won't be any distortions or foldings. But when you come to the edges, you can find so many foldings in your chocolate paper because it is actually tied and it is so much getting shrinked at your edges. So just imagine how it will actually explore or how it will look when it is actually getting outside to this particular projection. So that is where the main concept of projection comes into picture. So in this case, we have a cone where it is placed exactly on the surface, and when we are actually deriving, when experts actually came up with the UTM or a 4326 projection, they considered each and every factors into account. For India alone, they didn't place only one cone and defined all over Indian projection. They placed multiple cones. They found what are the locations that is exactly touching the surface. Based on that, they derived one particular location, that is one particular projection that could actually help the users in providing the higher accuracy of results. So it never matters like what sort of, whether it is a polyconical or a cylindrical or any sort of projection. The only thing that we have to focus on is our accuracy, and that accuracy are actually provided based on the projections that we choose. So yeah, and what is the exported grid size of? I guess grid size I explained it. Which EPSG for conical projection we have to choose for georeferencing in QGIS? So it is not about polyconical projection. You have to either choose a projected coordinate system or a geographical coordinate system. So the projected coordinate system, as you see, if you go to georeferencer window, in your georeferencer window, when you load an image, you will get an option called, select as a CRS. So in this, you have geographic coordinate system or projected coordinate system. So in this, which one should I choose? If you have that particular query, if your values are in latitudes and longitudes, you can go with 4326 by default. You don't have to worry about it because that is a worldwide, that is followed worldwide, and also it is acceptable by everyone. So most of the topo sheets that we georeference or most of the data that we georeference we have to go with 4326 projection only. So in case if we are having an data in units of meters, that is like in different projection. For example, most of the satellite images will be provided with the, in UTM projection only. So in case if you are having a projection data in projected coordinate system or any other coordinate system, that case what you can do is you can open the data in the exact projection which the data is obtained. So most of the data will be in projected coordinate system. So that particular data, you can open it, you can have a visualization of it, you can go to the properties and find what projection the data is provided in, and then choose the same projection, because when we have a raw image, that is the WARF image, and when we have a image that is to georeference, we have a projected reference image and a WARF image. So the reference image will be used as a reference. So the same projection should be given to georeference the next image also. So now if I'm using this particular data as reference, in my georeferencer window, when I open a new image, I will choose the projection which is actually the same as the other data, that is 32644. That is the Google image projection. So Google image is in 32644 projection. So I will set my data to 32644 projection. So the units will be actually maintained. So that is how you have to actually go with the projections. If you have any queries in choosing your projection, you can actually search for UTM zone shapefiles. You will get so many shapefiles, like UTM shapefiles. You can import it, where you will actually have the zones listed, like this particular zone will be listed as a shapefile. Yeah, this you will get as a shapefile. So based on this, you can actually choose your projection. So which projection, which location is my place located. So based on that, you can go with the UTM projection. So how? Okay, so the law, I guess I ask you because georeferencing using polyconic projection. What we have to do, sir? See, that is what I'm trying to specify. The thing is like the thing is polyconic is just a surface which is used to develop a projection. Okay, it is not about any like getting with the projection, or like you have to georeference with the polyconic projection or not. If you have latitudes and longitudes, you have to go with geographical coordinate system. There are only three coordinate system. One is geographic coordinate system, next is projected coordinate system. You have to use data within only these two. If you have latitudes and longitudes, you can go with the 4326 projection. So that is how you actually can georeference, because the information is provided only in that particular the information is provided only in that particular projection, you can say. And each and every projection, so since you are actually like asking so much on polyconical, so okay, you can see here, can you see this always equal area? Similarly, when you go with each and every projection, you can see equal area, you can see equidistant conic, and you can also come across this polyconic projection. You can see, wait, maybe I guess I can show you. Some, yeah, confirm will be available. But all these conical projections or all those will be in projected coordinate system. Those projected coordinates, when it comes to projected coordinate system, the entire units will be in meters. It won't be in latitudes and longitudes. So if you have your data in meters, still you can't say that you have to go with this particular projection or not. It is based on our flexibility. The only thing is that particular projection should cover your study area. That's it. Let us say if my location is exactly located in Tamil Nadu, I can either go with 32644 projection. That also will help me, because this is also one projection which will be derived using different conical projections only. And the next thing is I can go with zone 4 of this also. This is also one which I can go. This is also the unit will be in meters, and at the same time the projection is this also will be a conical projection only. So it is always based on the projection that we have to choose for our particular data. It is not polyconical or something. It is the values how in which the data is obtained, and that is what we have to use. Okay. So I guess any other doubts?
Hello.
Okay, shall we wind up? Okay. Proceed.
Any other doubts?
Sir, please re-explain GeoEdify, why we use
Sorry, can you please type your question over there? That will be actually useful for me, because I couldn't get your question.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Yeah. Please re-explain. Okay, that's not GeoEdify. It is actually GIS Edify. That is online training mode that is being under construction from KCube, where you can do all the GIS courses. Like GIS Edify is a website actually. This page is still under construction, so this is a page where you can actually take some GIS courses and get this is certification kind of a thing. You can take some introduction to GIS course, or starting from introduction till advanced will be coming into picture. Maybe in a month this will be actually live, where you can actually go through the certain courses and you can get your certificates. It's sort of like a training website. If you need, you can go, you can register, you can do the course. You can also, there is also a forum where you can share your queries. And anything else? Any other queries?
Okay. I think, shall we wind up, sir?
Yeah, yes, sir. And yeah.
Okay, okay. Before that, a small information I would like to share with all participants, that all the sessions have been recorded and we are planned to upload all those videos in YouTube channel, and the YouTube link will be shared to all the participants. This is for your kind information. And also we are getting PPT from the expert members. Once we got all the PPTs and all the PPTs will be sent to your mail ID. So you need not to worry about it, and we will do for you, but within 5 days. Okay. And this is a time for vote of thanks. I think all the queries have been cleared by Dr. Suresh. First of all, I would like to thank today's resource person, Dr. Suresh sir, for accepting our invitation and come over here and covered various topics. And it is a time to temporarily stop AICTE funded STTP. And I would like to thank all the participants for your valuable feedbacks and active participation throughout 6 days of this STTP. And I would like to also thank all the expert members who have accepted our invitation and come over here and cover various topics effectively and interestingly. On behalf of Department of Civil Engineering, I must thank our management and AICTE for granting fund to conduct this STTP. Also, I would like to thank co-coordinators for this program, Mr. Samuel Prabhakaran sir, Mr. Manikandan sir, and Mr. Vivek sir. And also, I would like to thank session vice in charges for their commitment towards these 6 days STTP. I hope these 6 days STTP will be useful for your lifelong learning in the remote sensing domain. We will contact you in phase 2 short-term training program with different topics in remote sensing area in the month of September. Thank you very much, and we will contact you soon for phase 2 short-term training program. Okay. Now the session may be closed, I think. Samuel Prabharan sir. Samuel sir.
Yes, sir.
Do you have any?
Sir?
Do you have any instructions for participants, or shall we close?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
Certificate will be sent to 1 or 2 more days, sir.
Okay. Okay. All the participants again request. Final feedback link will be sent to your mail ID to the eligible participants. After filling it, the certificate will be sent automatically to your mail ID. Okay. Okay. Shall we wind up, Samuel sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you all for your kind cooperation and active participation for this 6 days short-term training program on basic of remote sensing. Thank you all once again.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.